It's the Esoteric Eric Roberts podcast, and today we're talking about Final Analysis from 1992, directed by Phil Juneau, starring Richard Gere.
I'm going to start, I think on IMDb they called him Joanno. I was wondering about that.
Should I start over or we keep rolling?
Keep rolling, because I think that nobody knows how to pronounce this guy's name, and we'll probably mess it up.
All right, Joanno,
I think is the correct pronunciation.
All right. The movie stars Richard Gere as Dr. Isaac Barr, Kim Basinger, Uma Thurman.
Good pronunciation on Basinger. Yeah, it's another largely mispronounced name.
And our friend with another "and" credit.
Yeah!
Eric Roberts.
3 ands in a row.
Yeah, this is and number 3. Jimmy Evans, and then we're working with Paul Guilfoyle.
Jimmy Evans, not too different a name from Eric Roberts. Yeah, Paul Guilfoyle, Phil Joanno stalwart.
Yeah. Keith David, and there is an uncredited role here in the film. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did. I did notice that. Good actor.
Your friend.
Yes. Who I wished was in the movie more. I thought he was going to be in the movie more when he popped in. I was like, I didn't see him in the credits.
Yeah. So this is another...
Harris Yulin.
This is another erotic thriller from the early 90s, the heyday of that genre.
Yeah, and this one has the legal thriller element and is like a Hitchcockian psychological thriller. Yeah, very Hitchcockian. Starting with the credits. The credits are very Hitchcockian with that score. Mm-hmm. Bernard Herrmann-esque score. And Uma Thurman's face.
And we start on Uma Thurman's face, and she's sitting on...
here's a question about the credits. What was the movie called when you had it?
The title?
Yes.
Of Final Analysis.
I somehow watched some version with German credits. And I believed the title was Eiskalte Leidenschaft.
Weird. No, I paid for the film. I rented it on Amazon Prime.
Oh, nice.
So I paid for correct credits.
And for probably properly moving end credits. I had some kind of fast-moving TV rip credits at the end.
So Richard Gere plays this psychologist, Dr. Barr, and he has a patient played by Uma Thurman.
Yes.
Who the film opens on Uma as her character's name is Diana. She's explaining a dream that has to do with flower arrangements. And let's see here. So then somewhere in there, a sister gets brought up.
Yes.
Uma's a troubled woman. She has obsessive-compulsive disorder, and it seems like a lot of repressed sexual problems. And so her sister is going to drop by and pay Dr. Barr a visit.
And she's really insistent on Dr. Barr meeting this sister, and he's not too high on it. But she just keeps pushing this sister on him.
And it's also, you can sense that she has a crush on Dr. Barr.
Yes.
Is kind of trying to make herself available to him, and he's playing the good doctor here and not giving in. So this scene ends, and then we see Dr. Barr in a courtroom, and he's just a
He's an expert witness, that's right.
Expert witness, that's what they call it. Yeah, and so he's giving his expert opinion on a case and a character named Pepe Carrero.
Now you say Pepe. But they don't. They call him Pepe.
Pepe. Yeah, they call him Pepe. That's right.
Old Pepe.
And when you see Pepe, you're definitely being told that you don't want to forget this guy.
Yeah, exactly. This was a confusing scene, too, of just how the movie wanted you to read it. Mm-hmm. Did you feel, when you see Pepe, he's a guy that has sensitive eyes, right? So you suspect maybe, it's a weird one, because you don't know, they really set it up like Richard Gere is maybe not so high on scruples, and that Pepe really is a criminal kind of type, and that maybe Richard Gere is facile in giving these testimonies, because it turns out Paul Guilfoyle, the attorney for Pepe, the defense attorney, he's Richard Gere's buddy and is kind of a fast and loose kind of guy. I kept thinking that he was playing the Oliver Platt role.
Yeah, that's a good observation. He is very Platt-esque.
Yeah, but then at the same time, we don't know yet whether or not to trust Richard Gere. And he was good with the sister. He didn't seem too lascivious. And then Pepe has those sensitive eyes. So we just don't know how to feel. But we know, you're right, we know we're not supposed to forget Pepe. We know he's going to play in at some point.
But there is someone in the courtroom who doesn't like Dr. Barr, and that is Keith David as Detective Huggins,
Yes.
who is very unhappy at Dr. Barr's analysis, which basically gets Peppy off. Peppy's character had killed, his stepfather, and then it's kind of revealed that the stepfather had been abusing him for years, and so Peppy gets off easy with a little bit of time he's got to spend in the psych ward.
Yes.
Is that right?
And then he's going to be, Richard Gere's going to be his doctor.
Yeah, Richard Gere volunteers to see him like twice a week or some crazy amount of time. But yeah, you see Keith David in the back, with a nice, he's gritting his teeth and he's saying something like, son of a...
Yeah, he's a cop. He's the cop that busted Peppy. And he's just angrily chewing tokens back in the back of the courtroom.
And when we see him again, is that like a cigarillo that he's constantly chewing on?
Oh, maybe. I can't remember now. Good question.
It's a crazy looking. It's got to be some kind of a cigar, but it's real gnarled looking and
backwoods.
kind of distracting. Yeah, it looks like a backwoods cigar.
Cheroot.
So yeah, we learn that Guilfoyle, the attorney, is like best buds with Dr. Barr, and so they're having some drinks at the bar afterwards. And it's here that you learn that Dr. Barr is a very horny man.
Ah.
He's lonely. I think maybe he runs into his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend there, and it's remarked that she looks really good, and then I think he's looking at someone else. So he's kind of he's a guy that's on the prowl.
Good call.
Oh, well, another thing that we should talk about. This is a San Francisco film.
Oh, yes, and just as much as our previous films wanted us to know their setting, this film really luxuriates in the sights of San Francisco.
Yeah. Which I think it did take me a little bit before I caught on that it was a Frisco film. But once you see that Golden Gate Bridge, you can be prepared to see it at least like 30 more times in the film. But again, Juano, if I'm pronouncing that right, he's a guy that he really, he really likes to get into these locations and just like shoot the hell out of them. He makes places look good.
Yeah, both of these have been really cinematography heavy movies. Like, this one was shot by Jordan Cronenweth, and the last one was that Harris Savides.
Yeah, this was Jordan Cronenweth's final film before he died.
He lived with many years with Parkinson's.
Is that right?
Yes, and I don't know if it was due to Parkinson's or due to his working style, but he had been fired off of multiple films before and after this, I think. Maybe not after this, and yes, he's one of the greatest cinematographers. We think of him a lot for the movie Blade Runner, but he worked on, such visually stunning films as Peggy Sue Got Married and things, and yeah, he really did a good job, but either he was a guy who took forever, which we hear complaints about on Blade Runner, or maybe he took forever because he was sick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get the feeling he mainly worked in commercials and music videos because of that, but I'm not sure.
He had also shot State of Grace, Juano's previous film.
First narrative feature, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this bar, every scene here...
And a little of Rattle and Hum he shot.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, everything looks really good here. The bar looks like a bar that you'd want to have a beer in. The courthouse looks like a place you'd like to win a case in.
Mm-hmm.
And Barr's house is really nice.
Yes, his house and his office. I kept thinking about how many different qualities of light and things were in these rooms. And just when we would learn cinematography in school, this would be the kind of film that was the exemplar of everything we were taught in like 2003, where when you look at people's faces, there are like two or three temperatures or color on their faces at all times, but with perfect shapes. And their dramatic lighting was just like a quarter of their face is in shadow with the strips on either side. This is some complex lighting. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these took forever. And there's always, a different lamp in the room behind him and stuff, and the practical lights always on. There is a lot of lighting in this movie.
And a lot of close-ups of faces in this film.
Yes. But with just tons of depth of field behind you created by different layers of lighting and things. Smoke and mirror, smoky courtrooms.
Yeah, which is funny because any other time if you see a courtroom like on a news show, like a real life courtroom is just lit like a the so god awful.
Has all the ambience of a Vietnamese restaurant. I forget where I heard that in a movie, but that's pretty funny, I thought.
So when we pick back up with old horny Dr. Barr, he's back in his office.
Jerking it.
In the middle of the, yeah, in the middle of the night, and he's paid a visit by Heather Evans, as played by Kim Basinger.
Is she in a red dress when she first shows up, or no?
I don't think so.
Some
She
point
looks,
she's in it.
she looks good though. She looks alluring, and she looks like a woman in trouble. And she chats with Dr. Barr for a little bit, and then they go out and have coffee somewhere and get to know each other a little bit more. And she starts to seed some clues to the doctor
Of what's going on
about
with her
the
sister.
sister.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can't remember if in these first few scenes that were with her, she mentions their father. Their father had sexually molested Uma's character
Yes.
after the mother left. And that's why Uma's character is so messed up.
Yes, indeed.
And so their nice little night ends with Basinger telling Richard Gere that she can't go any further, even though there seems to be an attraction between them. She is a married woman. And who do you think she's married to?
Man. Eric Roberts?
Jimmy Evans.
Oh.
Yeah.
Played by Eric
So-
Roberts.
Jimmy Evans played by Eric Roberts. So it's not long after this. I think Heather goes home, right? And this is where we meet Jimmy for the first time. And it's another
This is a
classic Eric
scene.
Roberts.
You see.
Just his reveal is so classic. I think he's in front of the mirror. He's just gotten out of the shower.
Yeah, naked as fuck.
He's naked. He's showing off his nice body.
He's ripped.
Yeah, tan, ripped.
Yeah,
looking good.
he's not as beefed up as in Heaven's Prisoners. He's lean and mean in this. Like he's looking like he's got 0% body fat. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in peak Eric Roberts eating disorder era.
Yeah. He's pretty skinny. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Once again, the body shame I feel watching these Eric Roberts films.
I think he may have actually had an eating disorder,
Oh.
and I don't know if you know more about this.
No, I don't.
But on the Eric Roberts website, there is a quotes page, and the quotes are broken down into different categories. And, it'll be like the category of on acting, and then on addiction. And then there's one that says on eating disorders. And he has a few quotes about it. And one of the quotes that I had saved says, you have an eating disorder if after you eat, you're never full, just full of shame. So any of our listeners struggling with that disorder, that horrific disorder, just remember those words.
Well, that one you can take two ways, because I feel like I can just eat and eat and eat and not get full except for of shame.
Yeah.
Box after box of cookies or cherry cordials.
So Jimmy Evans is instantly very menacing when we meet him.
Oh man, he's a husband from hell. Or, it's like some kind of woman's or man's even sexual fantasy, of some kind of master-slave relationship he has here, where he just owns Kim Basinger sexually or something.
Yeah.
And he just demands she go down on him, strip nude and go down on him right there, and she's just guess I should.
And she does tell Gere's character before this that she's married to this guy, but they're not really, they're basically separated.
Except that she will obey his every sexual whim. Edie, I don't know if you've ever had relationship troubles, but one thing you can be assured of is when you're not getting along with your spouse, you get sex anytime you demand it.
Well, from my experience, that's how it works. So Jimmy Evans demands his wife strip in front of him, and the cowering Kim Basinger does so. So what happens after this?
She gives him
need you to
head.
help me out. Well, yeah, she does drop down to her knees, so it's implied.
I guess you're right. We don't know. What happens after this? Good question. Does she go hang out with Gere again, or does he go hang out with Gullyfoyle, or is this when we get the violates sequence?
Well, we do see Basinger really soon after this. She goes and sees Barr the next day for sure.
Okay.
And it's here that man, Hang on. I'm going to bring up the...
At some point, he takes her to a lighthouse. Sorry. I'm going to pee real fast while you look. BRB.
Okay.
I didn't have one gray hair. Not one. Until I married you.
Can't even see that unless you were looking under a magnifying glass, Jimmy.
What do you think I'm afraid?
Afraid of what?
Of you.
So I think what's happening next is Basinger meets up with Barr again and drops a few more clues about her and her sister's past with a father who died in a fire.
Yes.
And then Barr has another session with Uma's character, the sister, and it's revealed that she has a handgun now that was given to her by her sister, Basinger, which concerns Richard Gere.
Oh, and it's definitely said or implied, right, even if this comes up later, that Uma Thurman set the fire that killed the dad. No?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Well, okay. Gere and Basinger, let's get right to it. Gere and Basinger end up having sex.
Yes, and we see it's a big sex scene, though with not a lot of nudity. There is some. There's at least one good shot of Kim Basinger's breasts, which we'll get to later. And
there's Richard Gere's ass.
Yes, which we'll get to now.
So I wanted to just address the elephant in the room about Richard Gere and talk a little bit about this gerbil.
This got brought up on the other Eric Roberts podcast. But go ahead, bring it up, because I feel like they did a poor job. I got to say, okay. I don't hate the other Eric Roberts podcast that exists, but this episode, I couldn't even finish it. It really, I got to tell those guys, if they ever hear this, that they dropped the ball on final analysis.
Well, so the Richard Gere thing, it's an urban legend that I didn't really hear until a little bit later. But there's a similar urban legend that you may remember.
Yes, about a guy in Oklahoma.
There was a pair of brothers who sold furniture, the Mathis brothers. And the gerbil story, the first time I ever heard it, I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And it didn't have to do with Richard Gere. It had to do with one of the Mathis brothers.
Yes, I had the opposite experience where I heard about Richard Gere probably around the same time I learned who Richard Gere was. And then the Mathis brothers I didn't hear about Mathis brother till much later.
Yeah. So anyway, somehow that someone took the Richard Gere story, I'm sure, and just ran with it and gave it a little local flavor.
Well, who knows which one predates the other? Did you do any research on the Richard Gere story?
The Gere,
when it originates?
Both of those legends appeared somewhere around the mid to late 80s.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know which came first, the Mathis or the Gere.
Those both strike me as just so outlandish, but you never know, I guess. Either way, they did not affect my thinking of final analysis.
But he's very naked here.
Yes, I guess you see his rear. You're right. Does beg the question.
Yeah, you do see Gere's rear. Now, Gere and Basinger had starred together before this.
Yes, in a movie called No Mercy.
And according to Basinger's first husband, her and Gere had a real-life affair during the shooting of that film, in which he caught them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they stayed together for a few years after that and tried to work it out, but eventually divorced. So anyways, five or so years later, Basinger and Gere appeared together again in final analysis.
There is a real let's recapture the glory and make money off at this time feeling to this movie of let's do 9.5 weeks and No Mercy and Pretty Woman and let's get our cash on this deal.
Yeah, and so there's a lighthouse scene. So everything starts to feel very Vertigo-esque.
Yes, the lighthouse scene very Vertigo-esque, and with the matte shot, the matte painting below the lighthouse, that's really gorgeous, if indeed that is a matte painting, which it reminded me a lot of Black Narcissus.
Yeah, that overhead shot.
Yes.
And Basinger's hair.
Really
Basinger
pretty.
is very, very Novak-esque in a lot of these scenes. And just watching this, I was reminded of I think Kim Basinger's great, and I had just forgotten about her. I don't know your feelings on her acting, but
I think as an actor, she has her okay point. I think she's not that strong an actor, but I find her incredibly physically attractive, and I don't hate her acting. In the right roles, she's okay. Like in this, I liked her. She has one scene where, I don't know if it was her or the dialogue, but it was laugh out loud, bad, unintentional comedy moment we'll get to. But Overall, I liked her
I
in
think
this
I know
movie.
the scene. Yeah. Well, she first came to my attention in Batman. I have never seen 9.5 Weeks.
I watched it again after watching this. I've seen it.
9.5?
Yeah, I've seen it a few times over the years.
Yeah. Nor have I seen No Mercy.
I
Have you
watched
seen
No
that one?
Mercy too, after 9.5 weeks.
Roy, you're doing your research here, and I have to applaud you for
Thank
that.
you. I liked No Mercy. It was kind of similar to Final Analysis or, say, Heaven's Prisoners. It was a mediocre movie. Well, I don't know. I don't want to ruin my feelings about Final Analysis, but I didn't mind No Mercy. It was kind of a dumb, fun action movie. It was pretty dumb, but it was kind of fun. Yeah. It had sex between them, but I think no nudity.
The next big memorable scene here in Final Analysis is a dinner scene between Eric Roberts and Basinger.
Oh, yes. And this is where we revealed that she has this is the big thing, where she cannot drink.
That's right. She wants just one sip of wine.
And he's like, no way.
So at first you just think he's being the usual controlling, menacing guy.
Which we were alerted to before.
And he finally gives in and allows her a sip, but she just guzzles the entire glass.
Yeah, so what we learn is that if she has even a drink of alcohol, she goes nuts, right?
Yeah, she suffers
she blacks
from...
out and acts out.
That's right.
Becomes a different person.
They call it pathological intoxication.
As this scene wears on, do you start to wonder if maybe Eric Roberts isn't kind of a good husband in some way? Now we get evidence later, maybe he's not. But how evil does he seem after this scene is done?
Pretty evil.
Oh, okay.
She goes to the hospital, and on the ride home from the hospital, if you remember,
yes, well, that's when he's like, "I'll kill you."
If you do this again, I'll kill you.
Yeah, but other than that, he's kind of just seems like regular concerned husband.
Well, he does force her to strip for him.
Does he force her or just say it? I don't remember Eric Roberts having any weaponry in that scene. I remember her walking in there.
I mean, he's a bit of a... This is something
he
I didn't
probably
think
weighs
about.
120 pounds.
Roberts' character is a bit of a psychological master in this.
He has a sadistic quality that also masks insecurity, you know. Classic Roberts role.
He's insecure about his Greek origins.
If anything, we've learned what his type is in these movies. He plays pretty much the exact same role to a different degree in every movie we've seen him in, especially the last three. All of his and roles have been very similar.
Well, Gere asks his defense attorney buddy to do a little research on Eric Roberts' character and investigate his illegal activities that he's involved in.
But wait, was that in the restaurant, the scene where Kim Basinger flips out?
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't cover that. Okay, in this restaurant, she flips out and starts yelling, like, she goes up these stairs, and then when she's coming down, she starts yelling about the fire out of nowhere, but where the whole restaurant can hear her. She's like, the fire! Just causes a huge scene.
Race and tackle Eric Roberts' character.
Yes, and causes a massive scene yelling, and that was the laugh out loud moment. When she flips out and starts yelling about the fire, it's pretty silly.
Yeah.
I saw that, you bastard! Don't look in his eyes, he'll burn your soul! Can't you smell it? Burning bodies everywhere! Burning flesh! Don't look at him! Don't! He'll burn you! I think everything is burning.
Get away! Don't touch her!
Hitchcock De Palma camera moves, swooping around her. She comes down those stairs, or swooping just to the side. It doesn't go like 360 or anything. It's not that annoying. It's actually pretty good, but yeah, but the dialogue and her there, it was silly.
And that loud melodramatic music just...
especially, yes, the score in this was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's a bit distracting, but you know where the inspiration came from.
Yes.
For sure, all those Hitchcocks. So yeah, the attorney buddy starts to investigate Roberts' character. Let's see here. Richard Gere probably meets up with Basinger again somewhere in here. Oh yes, there's this reveal of a metal dumbbell handle. Falls out of Kim Basinger's purse. Mm-hmm. And when Gere asks her about it, she tells him that she keeps it for protection. So that's a weird thing. Mm-hmm. That kind of
do we know it's a dumbbell there?
I think she tells him it's a dumbbell handle, but yeah, it doesn't have the weights on the end of it.
Okay.
It's pretty weird. And so somewhere in here,
Yeah, I think
It's another dinner scene.
On IMDb, they tell you what dumbbell it is, what model, if you want to buy or try to find the weight from this movie.
Ooh, it was a good looking dumbbell. Yeah, so there is another restaurant scene. And this time, Basinger and Roberts are joined by a party of other people. And Gere's there. And he's been drinking because he just can't give up this girl now. She's got him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wants to see who this guy is that she's married to.
That's right. And we know now that he's some kind of mobbed up Greek that's in real estate.
Yeah.
He's got a crime element for sure. He's a dangerous, scary character.
He has a great line here with his buddies at the dinner table where he's talking about putting too much sand in the concrete.
Yes, that's what it's. Is it great? It's his punchline is like so dumb.
I don't even remember the punchline.
It's something about, I can't remember. It's really bad, and they all crack up like he's witty, but it kind of sells the fact that these are horrible people.
Yeah, there's no trace of Greek accent at all in Eric Roberts' character, which is probably a good choice.
You know some Greeks. Do they have any accent?
I don't know any first generation Greeks.
Okay.
But Roberts' character, I think the attorney guy kind of digs up that he came
Wow.
directly from the country.
Jimmy Evans.
Like he had served. He tells Richard Gere's character that he had served in the army there and everything.
Oh, wow.
And has a brother who stayed back there.
So his
Stayed
real
back
name is
in-
like Jimmy Evansatsos or something?
His real name is Dimitri.
Ah.
And yeah, maybe something Dopoulos. I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't remember what's the last name is.
Polychronopoulos.
Dimitri Polychronopoulos. So there's another classic moment, and this reminded me of The Specialist, of Gere walks by the dinner table,
Yes.
and he locks eyes with Roberts, who notices Basinger looking at him, and there's this weird moment, you know. And so he goes into the bathroom.
This was a fun scene with he and Gere here. And another scene where if he wasn't threatening to murder Kim Basinger, Eric Roberts didn't come off as that bad of a guy to me.
He's so good in this bathroom scene.
This
He
is
comes
probably
in-
maybe his best moment in these movies. Maybe not. We'll see.
He comes in, and Gere turns around to face him, and he says, "Was that a look?" And then goes into this whole thing. Well, basically, he thinks that
I don't like guys looking at me.
he thinks that Gere is working for the Justice Department.
Yes.
Tells him to stay off his ass. So,
Every once in a while, like this scene almost seemed like it was out of a slightly better movie.
well, Roberts to me is the greatest part of this film.
Yeah, I did like his character.
Yeah. So it's sad what happens to him in this next scene.
Oh, but he thinks Gere is from the Justice Department. Gere tells him, "No, I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at your wife."
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I don't like people looking at my wife. Isn't that what he says?
Yes.
Was that a look? Were you giving me a look in there?
No, I wasn't looking at you.
No?
I was looking at your wife.
I don't like people looking at my wife. And I certainly don't like being looked at.
Oh yeah.
So there's a tense exchange. Roberts goes back to the dinner table, and Basinger has been coughing all night, so she says she doesn't feel well, and she's going to take a cab home. She meets Dr. Barr outside of the restaurant, and they take a cab, I guess to a drugstore, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't
She
remember.
gets some cough medicine. This is kind of...
She gets some Benadryl.
She starts sipping the cough medicine. She comes home. Eric Roberts has been home for a while, soaking in his jacuzzi bathtub. So we get to see some more of his physique as he's coming out of the tub. And he starts to menace her again and demand that she bend to his will once again. And she's had enough. She grabs a dumbbell and hits him across the face with it 2 times.
Yes.
He stumbles into the tub and drowns to death.
Jeez Louise.
Bad way to go. That was a pretty cool shot where you see his face in the water.
Yes.
It's getting cloudy with the blood.
Yes.
So that's the end of our friend Eric.
I thought it was
In this
ironic that the murder weapon in this movie was a dumbbell.
I thought the film should have been called The Dumbbell. As many times as it's referenced to, and as many times as the word dumbbell is used. And it's really the big, I mean, it is the MacGuffin in the film. It's the big prop that carries everything along. So what happens next is Heather is arrested and held on suspicion for killing Eric Roberts' character, and the doctor enlists his buddy, his defense attorney buddy.
Wait, we
Guilfoyle.
do need to backtrack a second, because we've missed a scene where, when they're in the hospital, Eric Roberts meets a doctor and who tells him about a condition.
The pathological intoxication.
Yes. Did we mention this?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So yes, she has this condition.
We know she has this condition, and so we're led to believe that in this prior scene it was brought on by the drinking of the Benadryl.
Yes. The old alcohol and the cough syrup.
Guilfoyle's character he becomes the defense attorney for Heather. And so now we have this long, boring sequence of courtroom stuff that happens. And I got to tell you, the first half of this movie was a slog for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So we get the courtroom sequence here, and I guess what happened, there are a lot of ins and outs here.
There's a psychology buddy that shows up to testify.
Yes, the psychology buddy.
He doesn't do a great job.
Well, there's a doctor they bring in. Okay, so the big thing is she's pleading insanity.
Yeah.
Because of the pathological alcoholism.
Temporary insanity.
And her lawyer is Paul Guilfoyle. And Richard Gere's going to do everything he can to help this lady who he's madly in love with. And at some point, Guilfoyle says, hey, you should stop seeing this woman. He says, she's not the kind of woman you stop seeing. And once again, to talk about Kim Basinger and the other Eric Roberts podcast, when they were talking about how she's the conceit of this movie and for Richard Gere's character is that she is so gorgeous and alluring that he would throw away and risk everything to just be with her.
Yeah.
And to me, seeing this movie, that is not hard to believe. She is just a knockout, right? To me.
Oh, absolutely.
But to every person that hosts that other Eric Roberts podcast, they thought she was disgusting and would have preferred anyone else in this role.
Damn.
Isn't that strange?
I don't understand it.
She's just she may not be the hottest lady I've seen in history, but she's perfect for yes, she's perfect for this role. She has the perfect straight ahead beauty. There's nothing you can say is ugly about her.
She's Kim Novak.
Yeah, she's sure, she's Kate Capshaw, but a better actor.
True.
I was thinking that maybe she stole Kate Capshaw's career, but maybe not. Maybe Steven Spielberg just helped that happen, plus reviews. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Yeah, she is not the kind of girl that you just leave.
No.
So, no, I don't understand that.
I don't either. They were really against her. They were also very much against Richard Gere. So at any rate, yeah, she has him wrapped around her finger, but she also has this defense. We also, at this point in some stretch, we've had it when we talked to Uma Thurman in one of the sequences we glossed over where they talk again, and she talks about having the handgun. She also talks about she dreams about violets, but when she says it, she mistakenly says violence and violates. She has two Freudian slips in here.
Yes.
And that's kind of fun and silly. So at any rate, we're in this trial, and first they call in a woman who doesn't believe in, what is the term of the alcoholism?
Pathological intoxication.
Pathological intoxication. She thinks it's BS. But then it turns out she hasn't even examined hardly anyone about it. At first she's a damning testimony, and then Guilfoyle tears her apart. So then they bring up their buddy, the psychologist, or the research guy, and they ask him about what he thinks and stuff, and he backs them up that she has this, et cetera, and then they cross-examine this guy, and they're like, well, how many people have you seen, blah, 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 have you ever seen anybody that killed anyone, blah, 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 and the guy's like, no, and he really starts to crumble, but then they redirect.
He's like, oh, God, no.
Yeah, oh, God, no, I've never seen, and he just seems like the worst witness for them ever, but then they redirect.
Sweaty.
And start asking,
the redirect saves it.
Yeah, and what did you see? And he's seen people, every story he has, he has a million stories of people not killing people, but killing themselves, injuring other people. He's seen all kinds of insanity short of murder. So it really seals the deal for them. People, after hearing this guy, you definitely think someone out there that he hasn't met probably has murdered someone with this.
I want to jump back real fast to the opening statements of this case, and our friend Harris Yulin as the prosecuting attorney, who is giving his opening statement, and he brings out a dumbbell, the murder weapon.
Yes.
Not the murder weapon, but he
No,
brings
as we
out
did,
a dumbbell as a
a
prop.
direct movie reference.
He slams the dumbbell on the table to really kind of drive it home. And then Guilfoyle steps up to give his opening statement and says, that was very powerful. Although we saw it first in A Place in the Sun. Raymond Burr did it first.
Yeah.
So that was a nice own of the Yulin character.
And with the movie with so many film references to bring out a direct one. Have you ever seen A Place in the Sun?
I have not.
Oh, it's a great movie, I think. Not everyone's taste, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, so after all this stuff, Heather gets off with a little bit of time in the mental hospital.
Yes.
But who else has been watching this case?
I think it's unspecified, but maybe it could be as short as 6 months or something.
Yes. Who else has been in the courtroom with us?
Keith David.
Yeah, just grimacing the whole time.
Yeah, chewing them tokens.
He's really out to get Richard Gere in this film.
Yeah, Richard Gere is just ruining every case. Getting people off on insanity left and right, which is supposed to be incredibly difficult.
So for me, this is where the film really kind of started to grab me.
Okay.
So we have Heather is in the mental hospital. She's feeling like she's going to get out in 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 2 months, I think they say.
Mm-hmm.
And Gere's probably looking forward to her getting out because her husband's dead now and they can be together. But then Gere goes to a conference, a psychology conference.
Yes.
And someone is giving a speech on Sigmund Freud and one of his patients.
Mm-hmm.
And something comes up, Roy.
Yes. And it's a lady attacking Freud. And she's saying that sometimes in a dream, violets don't mean violates or violence to a woman. Sometimes they're just violets.
The cigar is just a cigar.
Yes.
Well, this raises the hackles on old Richard Gere's neck.
Yeah, he remembers it.
Because he remembers something. He rushes out of there and races to a library
Yes.
and looks up some
Yes.
Freud.
I was wondering about this. I think you didn't bring it up, so I'm guessing it doesn't. I thought maybe I'd missed something where Uma Thurman was a student at a college or something, and he went to that college's library to see if she could find it. It was so strange how he rushes to this research library, probably at a university, I would imagine, and finds all these volumes of Freud.
They probably could have saved some money and just had his character go to his office.
Yes,
and
this was
from his
insane
own
to me.
library.
Yeah, I wondered if there wasn't this movie. We'll talk about what might have been cut from this movie, but how this building ties in, and his search for this thing was so stupid to me. It was a real dumbbell scene.
I just assume that that the conference he was at a college campus.
Okay, so yeah, I was thinking
he
the only
just ran
explanation
across.
could be that he wanted to see if Uma Thurman would know it, and so he went somewhere where she went to see if that information was readily available there. Which,
In any case, they
in
spent
any
a lot of
it seems
money.
So dumb. Yeah, because it's a neat looking. It looks like something out of Lorenzo's Oil, or like a Scorsese, or it's a nice looking sequence. But
They got a lot
pointless.
of extras.
Yes,
A lot
oh my
of-
goodness.
A lot of intricate dolly shots of him rushing past the aisles of books.
Yeah.
Very expensive scene.
Yeah.
But he finds his confirmation about this.
That was
Freud
bizarre. I'm glad you pointed that out.
He realizes that he's been being played by, or that he could possibly be being played by Basinger's character.
And at what point did you suspect he was being played by them?
I didn't know anything about this movie going in, so I didn't know what the twists were going to be. So,
See, I pretty much suspect, I didn't know anything either. As we discussed in the last episode, this was a movie we're not really familiar with. And
when she got off in the court scene, I figured, well, there's a lot of movie left, so
Okay.
things are going to have to start getting gnarly.
I thought from the point when Uma Thurman says, "You should meet my sister," that we were going to get into some territory here with some scammy, flammy, mammy stuff. So I was kind of on the lookout from the start. And then as soon as this intoxication thing happened, I was like, "Oh, she's going to murder him, and she's not going to have really been intoxicated." Or maybe I didn't know how it would turn out, but the wheels were spinning. I was looking for this twist of them playing him for the start. And when you were talking about the thing with the courtroom stuff being boring, the twist I kept waiting, one shoe that never dropped, that I thought would drop, was that I thought that the psychologist guy was in on it somehow.
This the sweaty, nervous guy.
Yeah, I thought the sweaty, nervous
Yeah.
guy was maybe in league with Kim Basinger.
I felt a little bit of that too. I guess my suspicion in the first half of the movie was more towards Uma, that something was going to come up with her.
Oh, no, I kind of had this movie pegged from the start in some way, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of just let it take me down the river.
But as you were bored by the first half of this movie, because I was looking for scams, I was pretty entertained by the first half of the movie. I was looking for all the little setups to see how they were I was trying to, my brain was kind of active. It already had the mystery element to me from the start where I was trying to figure it out, which I always think adds a little to a movie, keeps me interested. So I was not as bored by the first half of this movie.
Well, Richard Gere's bare ass kept me pretty interested.
Oh, yeah.
For a little bit. I guess really once they started to move into this court case, it got kind of boring for me for a little bit. But once the twists start coming here in the second half, to me it really got fun.
Okay.
And so now that Gere is very suspicious of what's going on now, let's see, he goes and he visits, is it it's like a courthouse guard?
I think it's a courthouse guard who just talks to him. And the first suspicion happens as they're leaving successfully from the trial. The guy where he's like, I never thought I'd see her up there.
That's right.
And it's the guard, he's talked to him a couple of times, maybe or just once, and the guard reveals that he's seen that woman but looking much differently, but you don't miss a woman like that. Once again, Kim Basinger stands out so much, which I think she would. I think if I was that guard, I'd remember her in different guises. Maybe.
Oh, of course. Yeah, so the guard basically
reveals that she's been in there and watched him get other people off on insanity.
Yes, exactly.
This is something I didn't look for, and I should have, because I looked for something else based on something I read on IMDb, to see if we see her in a costume in the background in the Pepe case. But as my recollection of the Pepe case is that everyone except for Keith David we see in the background is out of focus.
I wondered about that. I didn't go and revisit
for those shots where they cruise by everybody,
yeah,
or
so you
shorter
didn't
depth
see
of
her.
focus. I don't think we do, but I'm not sure.
I did wonder about that. I was like, I should go back and look and see if maybe she's in there.
Stopped at the drugstore.
Stop at the drugstore. All this hypersensitivity of one's own body. I feel stressed. I have a headache. Simple fact of the matter is, honey, you don't take care of yourself. You don't treat your body right.
I got some piss running down my leg. That's always good.
All right.
So he talks to the guard, and
Yeah, you don't forget a woman like that. Now, something else was brought up during the court case about a life insurance policy worth something to the number of $4 million.
and it has a double indemnity in case of accidental death.
But the beneficiary is supposed to be Jimmy's brother in
Yes.
Greece. So another thing that happens around this time is Gere's character finds out that the brother has died
6
very
months
recently.
previous or something.
Yeah.
And because of her getting off on insanity, the murder or death rather of Jimmy Evans is now an accident, and so the new sole beneficiary is Heather Evans, Kim Basinger.
So Dr. Barr goes to the mental hospital to confront her about this, and she admits to everything.
After he plays a trick on her and tells her that Uma Thurman's told him all this stuff that he's figured out.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to say earlier when he should have stopped seeing her and said he shouldn't, that this is a story of a man blindly risking it all for sexual lust for a woman. The classic San Francisco story.
That's the tagline?
No, I made that up.
Ooh, you should be a tagline writer, Roy.
It was a joke. Because San Francisco story, that's usually
Made me want to
usually
see
about two guys. Did you notice there were no gay characters in this San Francisco movie?
I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I don't know if that was conscious or not, but in modern time, it always seems like if you've set a movie in San Francisco, you're going to get some kind of homosexual character, but not.
The lighthouse was pretty gay. Right?
But not one in the entire movie.
True.
Underrepresented.
So This is the portion of the film I like to call the dumbbell portion, because
This whole movie was a dumbbell, because also he's sleeping with the sister of the he's sleeping with the murder suspect, which nobody brings up in court.
Yep.
And nobody brings up in court this brother being dead for 6 months.
But somebody did deduce this though.
Keith David.
Yeah.
But nobody brings it up in court.
Right.
There's another like the other lawyers like, what were the fuck were they doing? The prosecution drops the ball on this case so crazily. It's insane. Like all the stuff he finds out right afterwards, they could have known during the trial easily. And they could have known they were seeing each other.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, this was so dumb.
They never found the actual murder weapon.
No.
So you
No,
find
the dumbbell was never found.
You find out here that it's been hidden by Heather's character, and that it has Gere's fingerprints on it because he picked up that handle in the lighthouse. Right?
Yes, something like that. Yes, she's got it set up to where if he squeals on her, it looks like he's in on it, and is in fact the murderer. She can prove he is the murderer because of his prints on this dumbbell, and we know that Keith David thinks Richard Gere's in on it for part of that insurance money, and so he's already hates Richard Gere, and this evidence, you can just imagine how hard he would go after Richard Gere until he's put in the hands of that terrible prosecution team that just lets everyone off, does no research.
Yeah.
Finds one shoddy expert witness and doesn't prep correctly.
So here's a scene I'm going to need help through, is that the doctor comes back. Dr. Barr returns to the psych ward with these two guys. Now,
yes.
They
he
are...
tells her, he tells her, I'm coming in the morning. I'm bringing cops. Or something like Justice Department, DA office people, some kind of investigator people. And we're going to sort this out. And she basically says, you're bluffing. You're going to get busted for murder on this. He's like, I'll see you in the morning.
Yeah, and she brings up the double jeopardy thing. You cannot be tried twice.
That's right.
So she's not very afraid. She agrees to the inquiry.
Yes.
So these guys come in with...
That's right. That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
These guys come in with Richard Gere the next day. One guy's enjoying a cigarette at the table, which I liked. And, they start questioning
imagine,
her.
especially in a mental hospital, in this era of the early 90s, you probably could still smoke a lot in those.
Oh, yeah. Basinger thinks that her sister is going to be there, and he's going to bring the murder weapon with the prints on it. So Uma shows up to this in this scene during
Allegedly,
the interrogation.
Kim Basinger's ace in the hole.
But she does not bring the murder weapon.
No, her love for her doctor, her transference, has reached new heights to where she has betrayed her scheme with her sister. Oh, and at some point we find out, of course, that Uma Thurman was in league with her sister on this deal. Of course. Because how else would she have set up the violates thing? And yeah, so Kim Basinger thinks Uma Thurman's still on her team and has brought this murder weapon to bust Richard Gere and get them off.
Yeah, this is a big
But quite
sister
the opposite.
betrayal scene. And Kim Basinger flies into a rage and calls Richard Gere all sorts of hilarious names. You cocksucking son of a bitch. Blah, blah, blah. And
now this, probably also a little unintentionally funny just because of her spewing all the profanity, but I liked her here. I thought she was
so this
pretty
is
good
not
in
the
this
scene you had a problem with.
No, I mean I laughed. You're right, I did, but it was earlier. Yeah.
What was that? What was the scene?
It was when she comes down the staircase in the restaurant talking about the fire. When she has the pathological intoxication or whatever it is, like when she has that was what really made me laugh.
So some orderlies shoot up Basinger with some
and she's boned.
drugs.
She's boned legally here. She's already. It's like now she's just never going to get out of this institution. It looks like, even if she can't be double jeopardy, she's nuts.
Yeah.
And Richard Gere's off the hook.
So then there's a weird scene where Richard Gere meets Uma again in a restaurant.
First, though, he at the scene, what we find out is that he set up. Those guys were not an inquiry; they were hospital people. They were there for one of her checkups on her mental state. He told them he thought she had more problems or something than they thought, and that they should come check on her. So he set this whole thing up, and he tells her, he was like, "You were right about the double jeopardy. It was the only way to get you."
Nice. I forgot. Yeah.
And I thought
that was the whole
do you
ruse.
think this is a better movie or worse movie if the movie ends right there, where he says it was the only way, and they carry her off? That was where the movie was ending,
kinda
and I was
sweet
like,
if
you
you
know,
got
that
her
wasn't
there.
too bad of a little short noir mystery movie. I didn't mind it. But no, the movie has much more to go.
It does, and there's this strange scene of Dr. Barr and Uma meeting at a restaurant, and Uma's character has some hair extensions. So her hair is nice and
Yeah, and she has a big thing
flowing
where she's
blonde,
constantly
and it
talking
looks
about
like Kim
how her
Basinger's
sister
hair.
is the more attractive one, and she's kind of the ugly one. Only in Hollywood is Uma Thurman the ugly one, but it kind of works because Kim Basinger, once again, at least to me, is such a knockout that almost anyone you put next to her will feel inadequate.
Yeah, and Uma's young and like
Yes.
just a kind of a weirdo in this movie.
Yeah, and she has her mental problems, which probably keep
Just
her from
a
getting the
fidgety
dates she
weirdo.
wants
So
and make her feel
it kind of
more
works,
like
but
an
she is.
underdog. Yes. Oh, yes.
Uma is very pretty in this film, though.
Yeah, she was attractive.
Those lovely wide set eyes. So this is a weird scene, and we know that Uma has the gun in her purse during this scene. And I forget. So basically, she thinks that her and the doctor are going to be able to see each other now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe continue to see each
Yeah,
other
she wants to date
professionally,
Gear,
but
and he's
also
not down.
extra professionally.
He's polite about it, but not down.
Gear's not down, and so he basically politely declines and says, "Look, I can't see you as a doctor anymore. I'm going to call you and set you up with another psychologist."
Which, how can you blame him?
But
I mean,
this is pretty much the end for us.
they got involved in some double murder. Which, I mean, would you? It's like, I think Richard Gere can do better at this point.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
she's very dejected and storms out of there. I forget the whole thing with the gun in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
We see it. Remember, she drops her. She
Yeah, there
takes
is
her
a gun in there.
sunglasses
That's the
off,
first thing
drops
that
them
she's
in the
pretty
purse, and you see the gun. But
Or pulled.
no gun is used in this scene.
Then somehow I forget what happens next, but somehow she helps Kim Basinger break out. Oh, yeah, she gives Kim Basinger her clothes. And Kim Basinger just dresses up as Uma Thurman and just walks out.
That's right. Yep. Uma meets Basinger, and Basinger's character forgives her for what she did, and then says, "If you really want to help me, if you really want to make up for what you did, you can. There's something you
Yes.
can do." And they swap places. They swap wardrobe, and so
Pretty flimsy
Basinger
escape scene.
leaves the mental hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Could've
like
maybe
one
spent
moment of
some of that,
suspense where the guy stops her.
Looking up
Ma'am.
the library.
You forgot your purse.
Seeing money on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The switcheroo could have been done better, but she gets out and instantly goes to cause trouble. What happens? She gets the dumbbell, and I think
Yes,
she's going to
she makes
set
a
it
deal
up
with
that
Keith
she's going to
David
deliver
to
the
meet
dumbbell to Keith David
At the lighthouse.
to incriminate. Yeah, to incriminate Gear.
And somehow, I don't know if Richard
So,
Gere does much in here, hangs with Paul Guilfoyle or whatever, but he shows up right at that time when they're going to meet.
Well, Gear enlists the help of someone
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
to follow around who he assumes is Uma's
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, he enlists somebody to track down Basinger and help him out and get the dumbbell at any cost, right?
I actually,
And who is it? It's Pepe.
yes,
Yes.
it's Pepe. He comes
We don't know if
back.
Pepe's
He's
been up for a
unforgettable.
life of crime or not between then and now, but he certainly seems nice.
He's certainly a man of
And
honor,
he
and he
does,
owes
return.
Dr. Barr a good favor. So he starts following around Uma, but he gets mixed up during the switcheroo and doesn't realize that he's now following Basinger. So he follows her to some kind of, I don't know, what is it, a warehouse of some sort, where she's going to... Oh, sorry. Let's run it back. There's a scene with the trolley.
Yeah, I remember
okay?
at some point I was like, oh, there's the
Remember
trolley.
this? Okay, sorry. Pepe calls Dr. Barr on the phone. He's outside of the apartment, Uma's character's apartment, and he tells Dr. Barr, he's like, "She's in there right now. I can see her. She's grabbing the dumbbell, and she's going to come out with it." And so that's when Barr tells him, "You got to get that dumbbell at any cost."
Okay.
So he's following her. She gets on a trolley, and somewhere in San Francisco. He gets on another one that's passing in the other direction. She's leaning out like a dumbass, holding that bag with a dumbbell in it. And here's another funny thing. Is it a paper bag with that heavy ass dumbbell in it?
I didn't even think of that. Oh, man. I guess if it does, I mean, either way, I would not trust it in a paper bag. Whether it had the weights on it or not.
Well, Pepe gets the dumbbell. And here's where I got mixed up. Pepe gets the dumbbell. He goes to a rendezvous point where he's going to deliver it to Gear.
Yes.
But Basinger follows him there. And before Gear shows up, she blasts Pepe in the chest with a gun.
So I guess that was the setup of the Uma Thurman's purse, the clothes switch. She got the gun from Uma Thurman.
She calls Keith David, says, I have the evidence. I'm going to meet you at the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And then we see that Pepe is not dead. He's just severely injured.
Thank goodness. And the other Eric Roberts podcast, another time to reference them, this is probably like around when I tuned out, not because of this, but they really felt that Pepe should have died or at least one of their hosts did. And I had no feeling about this. He could have died or lived.
I'm glad he lived.
Yeah, why not? I kind of liked Pepe. I won't lie. His sensitive eyes got to me, and his honor.
Yeah, Pepe's cool.
But they were right that it is kind of tragic if Pepe dies and with his does the honorable thing here and still dies because of Richard Gere. I mean, I could see it either way.
He's being wheeled out by some paramedics.
Yeah.
And Gere's rushing to the scene and sees Pepe on the gurney, and that's the.
And he gives them the information where they're going, the lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Yes, and so many.
So he could have died after that. You're right.
So many movies, the character whispers some like super important information to someone that they need on their deathbed or like right before dying like that or being wheeled away like that. And so many times I think that's really not what that person would say in this moment. How do they know that person needs this information? This scene is done so badly in so many movies. But in this one, I think that's what Pepe would have said.
I do too.
Yes.
I think they got it right.
I think they got that right. Yeah, this is one of the few times where the guy really would just have given the guy the information. He knows exactly why he's there. He knows how badly he needs the information. He knows everything he needs to. It's like that's what you would have said if you were in Pepe's shoes and you owed Richard Gere. You'd be like, go to that lighthouse, bro.
She's got the dumbbell, bro. You got to get to the lighthouse.
That's right. That's exactly.
I might make it. You'll find out later.
Don't worry about me.
So this is a fun little scene here because I guess there's competing paramedics, right? There's two ambulances.
Oh yeah.
That showed up to the scene, and so the guys that end up getting to Pepe first take off to the hospital, and Gere is kind of lingering around, and he hears one of the paramedics drivers for the other company say, "That's a damn shame. They just beat us, and I could drive this car is much faster than theirs." Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Something about competing ambulance dudes, and the guy saying that he can drive this thing real fast. And so Gere basically asks him like to get him to the lighthouse as fast as he can. So he hitches a ride in this crazy Ghostbusters looking ambulance, old school ambulance that's just like flying down the Golden Gate Bridge with the lights and sirens on. And so they get him there. He's racing against time. He's racing with Basinger to get to Keith David first, and there's this whole sequence of he can see them, but magically they can't see him for like forever. And you're like, come on, you just look to your left. You can't see Richard Gere racing towards you.
Yes, yeah, like it's something you would notice even if you weren't looking for Gere to show up, which they probably wouldn't be. But still, if you're meeting someone like that, and even if you're not, you're going to notice.
Somehow he avoids their gaze, and he gets, so he races
is
up.
One of the prime things in the climax of Vertigo. If you've ever seen Vertigo, which I know you have, the climax of that movie totally works only if Jimmy Stewart doesn't look in a certain direction. It's like if he just turns his head at any point or stands in a different place, their whole scheme falls apart. It's like the flimsiest
the
thing.
Switcheroo in the
their thing with that, it makes no sense either. In fairness to this movie, they copied something else that just was a little too ridiculous.
Yeah, a nice nod to the old and plausible.
Yeah.
So Barr intercepts the dumbbell, and he gets his prints all over it
This I
before
liked.
Keith David can get
I
it.
did like this where he runs up and just gets his prints all over. He's like, oh, I touched it. My bad. Is that dumbbell?
Yeah. I liked that a lot. It basically renders his any old prints inadmissible.
Yes, and a lot of
is
people
pretty smart.
complain about, not just the hosts of the other Eric Roberts podcast, but other people I've talked to. They don't like Richard Gere in this movie, but I thought his performance, well, at times I didn't like it. I thought sometimes he's pretty good, and I really do buy him as a guy who schemes and manipulates and would know about those prints and run up and talk like that.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I liked him in this. So
I kind of liked him in the movie too. I did not have a problem with really any of the performances in the film. I thought Eric Roberts is so like one way, and it's the writing too. I think Kim Basinger and Eric Roberts' performance would shine a little more if the writing was better. Mm-hmm. But overall, I didn't think acting was a problem in this movie. I thought Uma was really good.
Well, nature intervenes here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and a storm shows up.
Yes, and this always happens in these 90s thrillers. Like the big weather thing happens to increase the visual intensity.
So the dumbbell can't be used as evidence, but Basinger has the gun. So she draws it on both Keith David and Dr. Barr.
Takes him hostage on a ride.
He takes them on a ride. So they're, you know what? They're not at the lighthouse yet.
No,
right?
they're somewhere else. Then she's taking them to the lighthouse.
So it's probably the
murder them
pier or something.
And she's got them in the car, and I think Keith David's made to drive.
Yeah, wherever it is, Pepe tells him to go. It's like the pier or whatever. Some
Yeah,
kind
he
of
doesn't tell them
rendezvous.
to go to the White House because this is where they go now. You're right.
Yeah. So we're not quite at the lighthouse, the gay lighthouse yet. So yeah, there's a storm of brewing outside, and it starts coming down really hard. Keith David is driving at gunpoint, and he hits a massive pothole, which is the second pothole hit in the film, if you remember. This pothole right before the lighthouse is brought up before when Dr. Barr and Basinger go there on a date.
Well, what happened?
When they're driving up there, it's not really a pothole. It's just like a indention in the ground.
Oh, you're right. Yes, and that's
in the
what
road.
this causes big trouble.
So that's a nice little plant and payoff because the indention comes back. They slam into it, and the car flies off the road into the ocean or onto the rocks by the angry sea that starts slamming against the car. Keith David, the detective, is knocked unconscious, and I forget who escapes the car first. Probably Dr. Barr. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. He gets out, and then Basinger chases him up the way to the lighthouse during the storm.
How did you like Keith David in this movie?
He was okay.
I wanted
one note.
to say about Keith David, as you know, I have one friend who, well, there's no better way to say this. I have one friend of color. His name is D-Roy, and he and I watch a movie together once a month, and it gets me out, and I get a tax write-off for the gasoline. And we watched Final Analysis, and he had some thoughts, and I was going to call him up right now and see what he thought. Doop, doop, boop, boop, boop. Yeah, Roy, what's up? Hey, D-Roy, we're doing the podcast now. I was going to ask you what you thought about Keith David in the movie Final Analysis. Wasn't that some shit? Only got one brother in the movie. Bridge away from Oakland, only got one brother in the fucking city. Only two Chinese. Motherfuckers built the railroad, fucking brought you here. Motherfucker, you know Keith David be tapping Kim Basinger like backstage. Alec Baldwin got caught him, and Keith David done fucked him too. Remember when that hoe say she fucked him in the ass with a dildo? Where it started. Yes, sir. And Keith David, he told that story motherfucking Darren Aronofsky. Put it in Requiem for a Dream. D-Roy, I didn't ask how you liked the movie. I asked how you liked Keith David's performance in the movie. Keith David, he was okay.
Thanks, D-Roy.
Good guy. Friend of the pod.
You know what I like about D-Roy is he's just such a chill guy.
Oh, yeah.
But so what was his thoughts on Keith David?
I guess he thought that there should have been more black people in the movie.
There should have been more color in it.
Yeah.
More homosexuals.
More people of
I
color
think
in
there
general.
should've-
You had one black guy, one Latino guy, and a few Asian people in the background.
Yeah, the movie should have really been anticipating Biden's America a little bit more.
Or
I feel.
1992 San Francisco.
So we're in the lighthouse now during the rainstorm, And let's see here. Basinger is chasing Dr. Barr up the lighthouse, which is it's funny to think about Batman. Kim Basinger
yes,
being
she's always going up some stairs.
drug up a lot. Is it a lighthouse? It's like a
bell
tower.
tower.
That's right. It's a bell tower.
I've got bats in my belfry.
There you go. Yeah. So another nice plant from earlier when they're on the date at the lighthouse is the balcony, or the outer railing is loose and old when they step out there, which comes back into play here.
Of course it does. I did like, like it's like with Kim Basinger in the lighthouse, and you got flashbacks to Batman. This whole movie to me felt like it was trying to combine things we'd seen Kim Basinger do in other films and shoot her in ways we'd seen her shot in other films. Like that was one thing I thought about was watching 9.5 Weeks, was I almost feel like there was a note from the producers. Yeah, we want to have a 9.5 weeks feeling with this, and that essentially Jordan Cronenweth was like, well, you know what? I can actually do this better than the guy that did 9.5 weeks. They just did like these, we're going to take it a step further with the photography and do the same kind of, what am I trying to say? In 9.5 weeks, they go for a lot of very controlled color schemes with like black and white and little patches of red, but mostly black and white. Like it looks like it's black and white and she's in color with her pink lips and pink skin and yellow hair. But in this, they make sort of also very kind of color controlled palette, but they work in more shades. Like it's like, you know what, I can give you that same look, but I'll actually have colors in it and it'll still look like I didn't and stuff. And I feel like he kind of threw down the gauntlet and was like, I'll give you 9.5 weeks, you motherfuckers. But
nice, he raised him.
I think that's what I feel like there was a feeling. Yeah, and there's the No Mercy, 9.5 weeks, and Batman. I feel like we're all thought about in the making of this movie. And she also played, as you might bring up later, another pathological intoxicated person in the movie Blind Date with Bruce Willis.
That's right. Who directed Blind Date?
Shoot, is it like Carl Reiner or something? I don't know.
Blake Edwards.
Oh, wow. One of at least two Bruce Willis movies he did. He did that movie Sunset
SOB.
or whatever with Bruce Willis and James Garner, where Bruce Willis is Tom Mix and James Garner is Wyatt Earp. And it's like, that's a movie that's watchable and should be better. Like you say about it, you have the classic quote that that's what every Blake Edwards movie is. As you kind of finish it, you're like, well, wasn't as good as I hoped it would be, but I guess.
Mm-hmm. The great American auteur Blake Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Basinger playing a
like if you read the plot of that movie Sunset, and even you just think like, wow, that sounds like an awesome movie. And then if you watch it, you're like, it's like, yes, it was okay.
Never saw it. Probably just saw like a lot of parts of it because it was one of those cable movies.
It kind of was. Like when I finally watched it, I realized I'd seen parts of it on TV as a boy.
Now, you want to talk some Blake Edwards Switch? I can talk some Blake Edwards Switch all night, brother.
I haven't seen that one.
Because that was a movie that was on HBO every day between 1991 and 98. They played the hell out of it. But back to Final Analysis from 1992 and the shocking conclusion of this story. Richard Gere, he goes back into shrink mode and he starts to bring up all kinds of like trauma and how he can help Kim Basinger, and it's not her fault, right? Because she has a gun on her.
Yeah, and he brings up something, I don't know about you, but I certainly suspected from the moment it was brought up that she's really the one that was molested and killed the dad.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
And that's what
but
starts
it doesn't
to break
work.
her. It kind of works.
Well, she tells him, I don't give a shit and I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? And our friend, the janky balcony, comes in to save the day. Because before she shoots, the balcony collapses.
Nice.
With Richard Gere on it. So. And
at some point in this sequence, we find out Keith David is not dead.
Keith David comes back to consciousness in the car and escapes.
In peppy fashion, he gains incredible peppiness.
Keith David is infused with the spirit of Peppy, and he rises to the occasion, and he follows them up the lighthouse. So after the balcony collapses with Dr. Barr on it, she turns to face Keith David's character, and does she shoot him? Now, this is where I kind of forget what happens here. She points the gun at Keith David for sure.
All I know is that she dies here. In the fashion that Joker died in Batman, she falls to her death.
She falls to her death because Dr. Barr reaches up and grabs her foot He grabs her ankle and pulls her off the balcony, and she plunges to her
I don't know
death.
if she actually shoots Keith David or not, but Keith David survives, as does Peppy, no?
Yeah, he lives because he then subsequently saves
Gear from
Richard
slipping
Gere.
and falling.
The window. So yeah, he rushes down to the window, a story down, and opens it and drags Gere in and saves him.
And then that sort of ends that, right? And we end up with, at another outside the courthouse again.
Where Uma is being tried.
And she has
for
been
being
convicted,
involved.
I guess, and is getting like a short sentence for being the accomplice.
That's it. Yeah.
And Gully Foyle kind of implies that maybe Richard Gere should have been dating Uma Thurman the whole time,
Yes.
rather than Kim Basinger, which is just a strange thing to assert in that situation. I was like, that was something that on the second had to watch when I rewatched the movie. I made sure to note, if I was following this correctly, that he actually thinks, outside this woman's trial, as she's being just been convicted as an accessory to murder,
Yeah.
he's like, maybe you dated the wrong sister. That lady's a real catch.
chose the wrong
You fucked
sister.
up, bud. You should have gotten the accessory to murder instead of the murderess.
So then we have a very weird epilogue to the film.
Oh, whoa, what
Where
happens?
Uma's character is out of...
Oh, yeah! This is
prison, and
crazy.
she's-
Even crazier than what Paul Gullifoyle says outside the courtroom.
She's on a date with a rich guy.
Yes.
And is she posing as her sister?
Yes, she's started, as far as I can tell, we learned she's started a new life for her. She tells the guy her name is Heather something,
That's right.
maybe even Evans. And yeah, she's just living now as her sister. So I think maybe what this movie thought was that we were invested in these characters, and it was the story of these characters, and that in the end, that's what happened to her. She went into some dress to kill thing where now she just like, she wanted to be her sister so bad, now her sister's dead, she's just her sister. Which, I mean, I don't know if that's what they were going for or not. That's what I reached for and grabbed
This is a
onto.
very unnecessary ending.
Oh wow, how unnecessary.
When should the movie have ended?
I don't know. I can understand how at the end where I said I thought the movie should have ended, if I'm a person in 1992 at a theater, or if I'm a producer of a film or someone, I could see thinking that's a pretty weak ending to try to get people to pay $12 for in 1992. Let's make more of a movie. They were going for big money on this. And I could see thinking that's just too slight. But
Let me tell you right now, Roy, you end the film with Peppy telling Gere where the dumbbell is. You got yourself a fine film.
and him touching the dumbbell, does that need to be in there or not?
I really think if you ended the film with him touching that dumbbell and then somehow Basinger getting either killed or busted right there
It's better.
in some kind of business. Yeah, the whole lighthouse thing.
It's pretty
whatever.
stupid. Yeah, the whole thing, because you know at this point what's going to happen. Once all the balls have dropped, you know from more or less that she's going to get killed or end up in jail.
Yeah, the reintroduction of the pothole is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that all was unnecessary. And unlike you, like I said, I was more invested in finding out. The thing I was most invested in the movie was seeing out how their scam was going to work, and if they were going to get gear or not. And once that all resolved, like I said, where I thought the movie should have ended, I didn't check out of the movie at that point. I stayed with the movie. It was pretty well paced and watchable, but I didn't like the second half of the movie as much as the first half. Or maybe I didn't like that last third of the movie as much as the first 2/3. But no point
I
would
enjoyed
say
the
it was too
madness
great.
of the second half. I didn't watch it twice, though, so I feel
Yeah, you don't need
maybe
to.
my opinion would have changed. So that's final
I
analysis.
have thoughts,
So
but
that's
I gotta pee again.
this man should have his prostate checked out.
Hold on a second. What?
Hey, Marine. Hey, Marina. 20 minutes, baby. You got the pipe, Doc. You got the pipe.
You'll be okay.
So in 1992, what else was Eric Roberts up to?
I think he was
this
also
year?
in a TV movie called Fugitive Among Us.
Yeah, I think he was getting ready to do Best of the Best 2, which came out in 93.
Wow.
A film I saw in the theater.
Oh, really? I think I rented it when it first came out on video. Wow, you saw Best of the Best 2 at the theater. How'd you like it?
It was okay. I saw it the same day as I saw Groundhog Day.
Oh, wow. I saw that
Groundhog's
in the theater,
Day.
for sure.
Yeah, they were out at the same
Bill
time. So
Crossroads 8.
Groundhogs.
Wow, so you saw Best of the Best 2 and Groundhog Day at the theater at the same day. That's memorable.
Yeah. So Groundhogs had more of an impact.
Yeah. Best of the Best 2 as a kid, I don't remember liking it as much as Best of the Best 1 at all.
Yeah, I was starting to come out of that love of martial arts.
And Best of the Best 1
Getting a
had
bit older.
the sports element where there was constant, you could kind of track it. The sports movie, I was thinking sports movies always have that advantage where there's also a game to follow.
I'm kind of feeling Best of the Best. I think we should get to that one pretty soon.
Okay. I want to watch next time Fugitive Among Us. It's on YouTube, and we haven't done any, I feel like we've not gone esoteric enough yet with the Esoteric Roberts podcast, so I wanted to find a more out-of-the-way movie.
Now, this is the one you said was a made-for-TV
Yeah.
film? From the same year?
Yeah, so this came out in 1992 also. And you can find it for free on YouTube.
This was the year of The Player.
Yes, to bring up
Starring Julia.
Julia Roberts, Eric Roberts' sister.
A much different thriller.
Which was
stylistically
a big success, at least critically.
These types of films, these Hitchcockian psycho thriller types of movies, I mean, they continued on for a while throughout the 90s.
Sure.
But
you still get to some degree them now, but they were big in this era.
Basic Instinct also came out in 92.
Oh, wow. Which certainly blew this away, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Silence of the Lambs had come out a year before. Slightly different type of film, but a thriller nonetheless.
Oh, yes.
And I think that Silence of the Lambs really started to make these types of movies really old-fashioned.
Oh, maybe so. And the Silence of the Lambs started the whole serial killer genre, more or less, right?
Yeah, so there's a pivot away from these femme fatale type of neo-psychological thriller type movies into this more darker serial killer type
Yes,
thrillers.
where every movie had a genius killer.
Yeah.
Boy, Silence of the Lambs is a good movie.
I wish Eric Roberts was in it.
I'm glad he's not. So how did you like this movie? How do you like The Player?
The Player's not my favorite Altman. It's okay. I don't really think it works as a thriller.
It's not that thrilling.
No.
It's a fun movie, though, I think. I liked it.
All of his movies are very fun. It's one that I feel like I should revisit.
Yeah, it made me think I should revisit it, too. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Is Julia only in it at the end in kind of a gag?
She's only
cameo?
in it as a gag. They bring her up. She's mentioned earlier, but she's only in it at the end with Harvey Keitel
the woman
and
on
Bruce
death
Willis.
row. She's the woman on death row,
Yes.
right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's only at the end. But that was a successful movie. It was nominated for multiple Oscars. It resuscitated Robert Altman as an A-list director.
It did, yeah.
So,
and she starred in Predaporter.
Yes, in a few years later, which also Kim Basinger was in as the fashion reporter. She's a recurring character as well in that, like a lot of movies.
And Gere, of course, had starred with Julia in Pretty Woman just a few years before this.
Yes, and Gere would go on to star in Dr. T and the Women, which I've never seen for Robert Altman.
That's right. And The Runaway Bride.
Yes, with Julia again. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I guess one of the things... Now I guess we can talk about the making of this movie and things that could have been different and stuff. So I guess that the director Phil Joannou and the star Richard Gere saw this, and executive producer Richard Gere saw this movie very differently. Did you see this?
No.
I guess that Joannou wanted to do it even more Brian De Palma and twisted, and he wanted to make Richard Gere's character more of a shady dude. And Richard Gere was coming off Pretty Woman and wanted to play more of a heroic guy in the same role. And what's-his-face, Joannou was saying, hey man, you're a guy who's sleeping with his patient's sister and stuff. He's like, you're not a good guy. We should skid into the curve of this story. It's like you could lose your job for this, etc. It's like you should be a more sleazy guy. And so that's why there's the weird, I think, that's a weird push-pull that's evident in the movie, where you're not sure how nice a guy Richard Gere is supposed to be.
Yeah, like you said in the beginning, after that first courtroom scene, you're kind of wondering.
Yeah, I think that the movie is maybe a little better if he's more actively scummy. Because he's so smart, and he knows what he's doing, and he figures out, he becomes sort of a criminal mastermind and out-twists and out-fox Kim Basinger's plan.
Yeah.
But at any rate, also, the climax of the lighthouse was not supposed to be. It was supposed to be on the Golden Gate Bridge, but they didn't have enough money.
Ah.
Now, why did they not have enough money, do you think?
Because of the actors?
Maybe. That is my new theory, because I watched a movie directed by Phil Joannou after Heaven's Prisoners called Entropy. And Entropy is a semi-autobiographical film of Phil Joannou's life adventures in Hollywood. And he makes a movie in it that an actress where she doesn't want to show her boobs. She doesn't want to do a nudity in the movie, and the producers are insistent on making it a sex movie. And he's like, it doesn't need to be a sex movie, blah, 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 and stuff. And it's a different movie in the movie. The movie within a movie is a different movie. But there are clearly two actors, John Tenney and Lauren Hawley, are playing surrogates of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. And they're kind of played as being Phil Joannou's friends and co-workers. And both they and him don't want her to do the nudity. And it's a big plot point in the movie. And they end up having to take $1 million out of the budget of the movie to pay her. She demands $1 million to show her boobs. And they won't make the movie without showing her boobs. And I don't know if that's based on this movie or not, but it feels like it is to me.
Yeah,
like it feels like
does.
the kind of thing Kim Basinger would be big and be like, I'm not showing my boobs again at this point. It's like it's not necessary. And Phil Joannou does seem like an actor's director. We see that he has his repeat actors he likes. I don't think we see Joe Vitarelli in this, but Joe Vitarelli was in State of Grace and in Heaven's Prisoners. We saw Paul Guilfoyle in this and Heaven's Prisoners, and he was in Entropy too, as one of the evil
Basinger
producers.
seems to like him.
Yeah, and then Basinger's the person who recommended him for Heaven's Prisoners.
Yeah, and I had seen some interview footage of her with Joannou talking about this movie, and she's kind of giving him some glowing remarks.
And we hear that, according to Joannou, Savoy shut down towards the end of the production of Heaven's Prisoners, and they were, or maybe post-production, and they were supposed to have more money, and that he and Alec Baldwin, according to him, joined together to try to raise $100,000 or talk these people into just giving them a little more money. And they could never do it, and that the movie both of them feel had much more potential as a quality film than the movie we see. However, I know somebody who told me that by the end of the Heaven's Prisoners production, that all of the actors hated Phil Joannou's guts.
Oh, damn.
I don't know what to believe there. But I do know that Entropy was a very terrible movie, worse than Final Analysis and worse than Heaven's Prisoners and much worse than State of Grace. But I guess, yeah, like according to Phil Joannou, making State of Grace was a lot of fun, and it was a flop, but it helped. But people liked it, and he felt that Orion pretty much just gave him free rein to make the movie the way he wanted, and that on Final Analysis it was just like a totally different experience, and that he had a very bad experience making Final Analysis for a studio and felt that they weren't interested in making a good movie, just product. And I think that maybe that in some way carried over to Heaven's Prisoners for him as well. He's been in director's jail forever. I think he's gotten to make a Blumhouse movie since Entropy, and then he's directed a bunch of TV.
Yeah, he hasn't had much output.
No.
Well, this film, Final Analysis, did not make a lot of money.
No.
And neither did Heaven's Prisoners.
No. And neither did State of Grace. But at least it was critically well received.
Here was an interesting tidbit that I liked. Uma Thurman's then husband, Gary Oldman, apparently has a cameo in Final Analysis.
Allegedly. I don't know that we ever have heard anybody who spotted him in the film.
Yeah.
I have a thing about this, too, that I read on Phil Joannou's IMDb, I believe, that Gary Oldman, I don't know if he's in any shots or not. I know where you would look for him, though. You would look for him in the
Gay Lighthouse.
No, in the mental hospital. Apparently, he had a role in the movie. He wasn't just a cameo because he was Uma Thurman's husband. Here's the full story. Uma Thurman used to date Phil Joannou, and he brought her on the set of State of Grace, and she left him for Gary Oldman. And Gary Oldman and her and Phil Joannou all still remained friends after that. And so they're both in this movie, and Phil Joannou goes on to direct the Gary Oldman in that episode of Fallen Angels around this same time. And Gary Oldman is who Phil Joannou wants to play the lead in Entropy. He wants Gary Oldman basically to play him in the movie Entropy, but Gary Oldman doesn't end up taking the role, and it goes to Stephen Dorff.
Damn.
So apparently Gary Oldman's role was he played a guy that Richard Gere had gotten off on an insanity plea years before and talks to Richard Gere in a couple of scenes or something.
Oh.
And what happened, according to Joanno, is that they had test screenings and the audience just enjoyed Gary Oldman's character much more than anything else in the movie, and so they cut it. Because people just kept wondering why this wasn't a Gary Oldman movie.
Man, that's fascinating.
Yeah, there was some twists and turnies on this. Entropy is a very bad movie. And U2 shows up in it from Rattle and Hum to give him career advice and stuff.
Well, join us next week on the Phil Giuano podcast, where we discuss Entropy.
This movie,
not starring Eric Roberts.
I don't remember this, but it opened against. Oh, and you know, as what's its face, the player was up for Oscars. This movie, once again, 3 weeks in a row, or 3 movies in a row for Eric Roberts with the "and" credit. Also, 3 movies in a row nominated for Razzies.
That's right. I saw the Razzie thing.
Did you? So
who won the Razzie?
I don't remember. I think that Kim Basinger was nominated and lost to someone else who has like a legendarily bad movie. And I think maybe the screenplay was up for worst screenplay and lost to Stopper My Mom Will Shoot. I wanted to talk a little bit about the screenwriters credited are Wesley Strick and another dude. I can't remember his name, but the other dude, I guess, like, if I looked at his IMDb, it looks like he might have been a lawyer or something who, like, wrote a few different things about insanity plea movies that got made over the years in some fashion. Or he consulted
I thought I'd read one of the story guys was an actual psychologist.
Ah, there you go. Because it looks like, like all of his credits revolve around psychological thrillers and insanity pleas. And then Wesley Strick, the other writer, is a big Hollywood screenwriter who is mostly known for doing thrillers. But 2 weeks in a row. Oh, that's another thing that Entropy taught us about Heaven's Prisoners. Heaven's Prisoners, we didn't mention this last week, but it had a co-writing credit to Scott Frank, who is another one of the big writers in Hollywood. And apparently Scott Frank is Phil Joanno's brother-in-law. And Phil Joanno roped him in to help doctor the script. And that's a thing that happens in Entropy, where he has to bring his brother-in-law in to help fix the script of the movie they're making in that.
Nice.
Yes. And I couldn't find the Siskel and Ebert episode of the review of this. I really wanted to watch it for nostalgia's sake. But this opened against Wayne's World and Medicine Man.
2 films I saw in the theater.
Wow. Did you enjoy those? I've never seen Medicine Man.
Let me tell you about Wayne's World. I loved the SNL sketches. I did not understand the film when I first saw it. I was 10 or 11. And I saw it with my cousin, who, it was like, as soon as we saw it, he was like, that's the best film I've ever seen in my life. And I liked a lot of jokes, but there was something about it where I was like, I just don't, I don't know, maybe I'm not ready for this or something.
Oh, wow. Then
when it came out on to rent and then came out on cable, like gradually as I got just a little bit older, I was like, oh, yeah, I get it. So I don't know.
I was psyched to see that at the theater and was told by my parents I could not.
Yeah.
They thought it was a little too old for me, maybe, just that the jokes would be too sexual, I'm sure, which there were many sexual jokes in it. However, something happened that weekend it came out. I went and hung out with my buddy Kreikel Jenser, and his father was a doctor, and we went out and we ended up at the house of his doctor buddy, Dr. Kruger. And Dr. Kruger had these 3 blonde daughters who were all older than us, various ages, but the youngest one was like maybe just a year or 2 older than us. And they were gorgeous. And these people were like so glamorous to me as a kid. Like this is the first time I met them. And they ended up making plans to go see the parents, the Krugers and the Krinsers were all going to see Medicine Man. And all of us, Riker, the Kruger girls, and I, were all going to have to go see Wayne's World. And it became this situation where we were way out in Oklahoma City, where I was going to have to call my parents to come pick me up somewhere way far out of the way, or have Dr. Krinser drive me home, and I was going to have to look like a major dork, or I could suck it up and go see Wayne's World, which I already wanted to see.
Against your parents' wishes.
Yes. Expressed wish. Yeah, they had it forbid it expressly. It wasn't a thing I just thought they wouldn't like. I knew they told me not to see it. I went and saw the movie.
A moral crisis.
Yeah, I went and saw the movie, and I loved it. And then the next day, my parents asked me what I did. Maybe even when I got home that night, but I think it was the next day. Maybe not. But I told them the truth that I went and saw Wayne's World, and I told them the whole situation and how, and for whatever reason, they were displeased, but I didn't really get in trouble at all. They just kind of let it go immediately. It's one of the only times I can remember that happening.
You should have done what I always did and tell my parents that I went to see Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, which magically somehow had been in theaters for 5 years, during which time I had seen Terminator 2 and the film Sliver. Is it Sliver? Yeah.
Yes.
Many other sultry rated R films.
Of course, Wayne's World not rated R.
Fern Gully. But I also did see Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest at one point in my life.
Which is the most offensive.
It was probably the most traumatic.
Did you like Medicine Man?
Yeah, I think I remember liking it. Who made that film?
That's John
do you
McTiernan.
know?
After his incredible action run with Predator, Hunt for Red October, and Die Hard, not in that order,
Yeah.
but those are three just movies that, Predator is a solid action movie, and I would say it's the worst of those three movies. That's a pretty good run.
I caught up to Wayne's World pretty fast, like I said. By the time it was out to rent, I kind of got it. But the movie that I really liked more in that time period, as an SNL film, was the Coneheads film.
Oh, which I'm not sure I've ever seen start to finish. I've seen parts of it many times. Maybe I've seen it all.
Yeah, I think Coneheads came out. The film came out in 93, so a little bit later than Wayne's World.
The Coneheads and Wayne's World sketches are very similar as a person who's gone back and watched a lot of SNL episodes in full and seasons in full, wherein the first Wayne's World sketch and the first Coneheads sketch are hilarious. And then they just ran it into the ground immediately with bad skits. Like, there are so many bad Coneheads and so many bad Wayne's Worlds, but then eventually they would have like one or two funny ones in there that they did towards the end of doing the character, where they actually thought of a good gag. But then, yeah, you can just see the SNL tendency to find something funny, then just ruin it with both of those. However, I do remember enjoying what I've seen of the Coneheads movie, and I much enjoyed both Wayne's World's movies, especially the first one.
I would really enjoy seeing the very first Wayne's World sketch. I don't know if I've seen it.
It allegedly was, in our minds, it's a ripoff of SCTV, probably, of The Great White North. But
yeah,
I heard that the first Wayne's World premiered the same weekend after the week that they started showing ads for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So it seems like that might have inspired Wayne's World.
And I was having this conversation with someone the other day about Wayne's World, Bill and Ted, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How the true pioneer of this type of party on dude character is Spicoli.
Yeah.
I don't think it had ever been in a film before that.
Yeah. I think just the 90s, not 90s, but the 80s, movies about California kids, even though the Ninja Turtles are in New York, they're very surfery.
And the celebration of just kind of dumb,
Valley Girl,
party-loving guys.
Which that started even earlier. I think that was what made the first. What's the lady's name on Lorraine Newman from the original SNL? I think one of the ways she became famous is she kind of maybe invented the Valley Girl character.
Oh, well, that's about all I have on Final Analysis. It was good. I would give it. What would I give it, Roy? I think I'd give it a 6.
Yeah, I'm about there with it. It's another mediocre movie, watchable. I enjoyed Heaven's Prisoners more, but Heaven's Prisoners is more my genre of movie that I like a lot, and so I can't actually say Heaven's Prisoners is a superior movie. I just liked it more.
I would agree with you there.
I wanted to mention also one last thing. In last episode, we talked about it, but didn't make the air. I know it's hard to believe we cut things. But we had a problem with some production thing, and I brought up the Art Linson book, What Just Happened, and how they made a movie of it, and Bruce Willis played Alec Baldwin in the movie. And I was thinking it's funny that Entropy had John Tenney playing Alec Baldwin. So now there are 2 movies out there where actors play Alec Baldwin in his own lifetime, and that's kind of rare. I'm sure that happened with Charlie Chaplin, maybe, but I'm not sure how many actors that's happened with, where they can just go to the movies twice and see some guy playing them in the movie.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
John Tenney. I'm not sure. I'd have to look up.
He's been around forever, and he's not somebody he's one of those guys you recognize, you're not sure who he is. He's that guy for sure, but he's a solid actor. He was Sheriff Behan in Tombstone.
Okay.
which once again, you're mind searching, and that's pretty much what you're going to do. But yeah, another solid Roberts movie. I got to give Roberts. Somebody brought. I don't know that he's actually good in these movies, or that we want to bag on the movies and he's funny in them. But he has been funny in almost every movie, and he was funny in this one. I thought it fit in all right.
Yeah, he brought his spirit is just so big. He brought
Yes.
so much energy, like always, and he's scary in this film. He truly is menacing.
Yeah, I didn't really buy his marriage with her. It was very silly. The movie's very silly.
There was a good Eric Roberts teeth suck too.
Oh, really? When was it?
It's when we first see him
In the
when he's
bathroom?
in the bathroom, and he wets that cigarette all grossly
Nice
with his
bathroom.
lips, and then there's a nice teeth, like a. Yeah, maybe that's his thing, because I've seen him. I think I saw him do it in Pope, and I know I saw him do it more than once
in Heaven's Prisoners.
Heaven's Prisoners.
He's
So
from
let's
the
be on the
Brennan
lookout
Sexton
for-
III School of Acting.
That's right. Well, let's keep a lookout for more teeth sucking
Okay, I will.
as we continue.
With, what was the name of that movie again? Sounds like 1,000 other movie titles, like Final Analysis and Heaven's Prisoners and The Specialist do. Only Pope of Greenwich Village has really been a very distinctive title. A Fugitive
I think
Among
the
Us.
film. Oh, I was gonna say. I thought the movie was called the "Bring Me the Head of Bubba Ross." All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Esoteric Eric Roberts podcast.
We'll put in some Bernard Herrmann music at the end and see if you can tell the difference.
Where's the dumbbell? He's controlling her. He's controlling her. He made her substitute those for the dumbbell. They're from the planet Bantar, aren't they, Isaac? How did he get you to do it? How did he get you to do it? You're fucking, aren't you? Aren't you, you bastard? Answer me! Answer me! Answer me! You don't understand. They're framing me, but they're both in on it together.
Of course, Miss Evans.
Hold on. I think I can reach you. Please don't.
You're in it together.
Heather, just... It's okay, it's alright, it's alright. You were right about double chapter. This was the only way.
You cocksucking son of a bitch!